A losing boy confesses his love to the cutest and most popular barista in school during the graduation speech, and together they venture out to the best night of his life. That's why today I love you, Beth Cooper. Remember that if you like the videos, you can support the channel by liking, subscribing and activating notifications. It's free and it really helps me keep growing. Now, let's begin. The story begins during the high school graduation ceremony of our protagonist, Denis Kuberman, who is among his classmates unable to hide his nerves because he is about to give a speech. There he remembers the moment when his best friend Rick advises him to declare his love to the girl he has always loved, because after graduation they will probably not see each other again. But he must do it in an epic way that he can never forget in his life. Returning to the present, it is time to speak to the audience in a speech representing your cause. His nerves are evident, and his really bad jokes only make his parents laugh. Despite stage fright, he continues to talk about the things they should do in their youth so that they don't have to regret it, saying that he previously stopped acting for some reason. He then confesses to the crowd that he has always been in love with the school's most popular cheerleader, shouting, "I love you, Beth Cooper," and leaving everyone in attendance shocked. Hearing this, the girl feels a little embarrassed, as everyone is looking at her, and we realize that the girl's boyfriend, who is not wearing a military uniform, is also in the place. The discourse gets out of control because Denis doesn't stop talking about everything he likes and loves the girl. As if that were not enough, he says some hints for some classmates with whom they do not get along, and also implies that Rick likes boys, but has not had the courage to confess it all this time. Fortunately, his teacher interrupts him by ending the graduation ceremony, and soon after everyone leaves the room. The boys who receive the hints begin to see him with some hatred. His professor approaches him to tell him that he has been very reckless, so this could affect his admission to Stanford University, and he apologizes, saying that he was not inside himself. Right there, the teacher remembers the moment she first made the delicious one in her teens with a boy she loved, but he just teased her nipples. Later, Beth Cooper herself approaches Denis to tell him that she has made him go through an embarrassment, although deep down it was something tender. While conversing decides to take off his toga, and Rick interrupts him to clarify that he doesn't like boys. Before saying goodbye, our protagonist comments that tonight there will be a party at his house, so he decides to invite her. But before he accepts, we see the military boyfriend named Kevin appear, who begins to strangle him until the teacher returns to defend him. After school, the two best friends walk home. Again, Rick clarifies that he doesn't like boys, and our protagonist remembers the exact moment of his adolescence when he began to believe this, but prefers not to say it out loud. Denis shows him the iPod his father gave him for graduation, while Rick talks about how tough his father is and that he will probably only give him one ticket. An hour later, Rick arrives at his best friend's house for the big party. Excited, he shows him the sneakers that he could buy with his last 2 salaries, but our protagonist does not pay attention to them. There appears her mother, who says goodbye, telling her that she should be careful, and her father recommends that she change Spider-Man's underpants. He gives her a bottle of champagne and talks to her about her reserve of condoms, so that she can take advantage of the moment to use them. After a while, Beth finally arrives with her friends driving wildly, and when she gets out of the car, she leaves our protagonist in love again. When the girls find out that they are the first to arrive, they feel somewhat offended, because this is not something that usually happens when they are the most popular. At first, the talk is totally awkward because the two best friends think Beth is joking by saying that he had a younger brother who was mentally ill and who died, so they both decide to apologize and open the champagne to lighten the atmosphere. Rick runs to get the condoms while Denis tries to open the bottle, but ends up cutting his hand. The worst comes later, when he has so many difficulties that he ends up hitting himself in the face hard, being the mockery of the rest. Beth quickly runs to help him by placing some frozen pretzels on his face and unconsciously sits on him. But like a good teenager, Denis can't control his instincts and his friend wakes up. This situation makes the girl uncomfortable, so she walks away. The others start playing with the condoms and finally decide to leave because everything is so boring. But before we do so, we see Kevin arrive, who has come for his beloved, and the madness has just begun. Denis has been as much as possible to lock himself up and hide Beth, but he cannot prevent the boy from entering the house. Then the barbican takes the bottle to challenge him to a fight and begins to attack the two best friends in a very rough way. During the chase, we see the boys lock themselves in their room looking for a saber to be able to defend themselves. And before long, Kevin arrives discovering that Denis has a poster of his girlfriend on the ceiling. At first, our protagonist manages to make him retreat, but the barbarian uses the arms of a skeleton to hit him with his impeccable martial arts technique. While this is happening, Rick escapes through the window, and then Beth arrives at the right time to knock her boyfriend out by hitting him with a skull. She tells Denis that he should take advantage of escaping and is shocked to see his poster on the ceiling. When the two best friends try to escape from the roof, we see that Kevin wakes up from fainting and manages to throw them into the garden, where our protagonist's face is carried with thorns. The military group is still willing to do anything to continue hurting them, so Denis runs to the street where he is savagely run over by Beth, who has come to help him. Luckily, the girl helps him up and tells him to get in his car to escape. A few seconds later, Rick also manages to climb up, and the girl steps on the gas like never before to get away from her boyfriend. Hours later, the boys are still on the road. There we see again that Beth is a lousy host. But even so, Denis decides to thank her for helping him. Our protagonist borrows his cell phone to try to communicate with his parents, but they are very busy in a romantic evening in the woods. Then Beth decides to get rid of the cell phone because her boyfriend is probably tracking her location. Soon after, they stop at a gas station to buy some beers. When they pay, the ATM asks them for identification, and this makes our protagonist very nervous. Surprisingly, Beth has a fake ID and says that Denis really is her younger brother, but this fails to work. Then, the girl decides to make a deal with the cashier, taking the beers in exchange for a kiss. When they return to the car, everyone is impressed by what the popular cheerleader has just done, and our protagonist begins to feel somewhat disappointed, since this time it is not the one he has idealized. The group gathers around a campfire. In the woods, the popular girl has a knack for opening bottles with her teeth, and when Denis tries to do the same, she loses one of her teeth. Suddenly, a romantic song begins to play, so the rest of the boys decide to leave them alone with the excuse of peeing. In this way, Denis and Beth continue to talk and laugh together. The others walk until they reach a farm full of cows and enter there to push one of them. But while walking in the place, Rick accidentally steps on a mountain of excrement. Back at the campfire, we find out that Beth doesn't have any big plans for college. In addition, she confesses that she was disappointed by what she said in the car after getting the beers. So Denis clarifies that she doesn't have to do all these things because she's so much better than she imagines. His friends keep trying to push the cows, and everything goes wrong when out of nowhere a terrible stampede starts that makes them run back to the campfire. So they decide to leave there, and Rick must leave his dirty shoes so as not to ruin the car because they are completely full of poop. On the way back, Beth again demonstrates his terrible driving skills, and Denis screams like a child when the girl crashes into a car in the woods. To everyone's surprise, the partner in the other vehicle turns out to be the parents of our protagonist, who begins to die of embarrassment. For this reason, the popular girl decides to leave quickly without them being able to see them, and they arrive at Bly W. Goody's house. At first, Denis does not want to enter because it is a graduation speech. He sent her a hint saying that she was a bitch. The good thing is that everyone cheers him on and finally joins the amazing party. Before long, Beth begins to flirt with other boys, making Denis feel bad, who decides to go to the bathroom. But along the way he meets the bully Greg, whom he also badmouthed at the graduation ceremony. To his surprise, Greg begins to cry in his chest, confessing that he is right, and thanks to his speech, he has changed to be a better person, becoming his new friend. Later, the two best friends find the school coach being very affectionate with some underage girls, but he doesn't give much importance to it. Instead, they start talking about Beth again. Right there appear two unknown girls who are evidently in love with them. One tells Denis that she loved his speech and also wants him that Kevin is at the party. Without thinking, they both decide to tell Beth that they will hear before they are beaten again. The bad thing is that at that very moment, Kevin discovers them while he is kissing Baldy, and Beth discovers his infidelity. She tries to defend him without success, so she starts planning another way to save our protagonist. While in the middle of the party, Kevin begins to humiliate him. Then the trainer shows up to set some rules because he wants them to have a fair fight. At the time of fighting, Denis refuses to do so by telling his rival that he has won everything he wants and tries to apologize, but Kevin simply punches him in the face that knocks him down. Luckily, his new friend Greg appears with incredible strength to defend him, starting a short battle between both bullies, in which the soldier wins again and returns to continue beating our protagonist. But incredibly, Beth appears again in an epic way. Our protagonist and his best friend manage to escape in Kevin's own car, which has been stolen by his now ex-girlfriend. To continue the evening, Beth decides to show Denis that the night can be even more fun, so they arrive at the school and use a key that the popular one stole days ago. When they get to the court, they do a cheerleading show, and we see that Rick joins one of the girls because he knows all her routine and proves to be very good. This moment makes Beth feel a little homesick, who is about to cry, but pretends to be fine because it's time to go to the showers. R is very excited to accompany them, but Denis is not very comfortable with the situation. Still, she decides to go to the locker room after a few minutes, and she finds the girls in bath towels. Seeing him, Beth tells him that he should not be so shy with them, and in front of his eyes, he decides to stay completely naked. His friends do the same, and then Rick approaches him to tell him that he should take every opportunity of his life, because this is something unforgettable. This is how he is about to start the best time of his life. But just as he is left in his underwear, he is surprised by none other than Kevin, who has come for revenge and punches him again. Luckily, Rick has long been prepared for this moment, thanks to the bullying of his childhood, and manages to attack his rivals with a wet towel while the others run to the car. Denis decides to escape without pants, and finally Rich manages to win the towel battle to join the group. After all this, our protagonist says that it's time to go home because he's had too much, and he's happy that Beth Cooper went home. The bad thing is that one of the girls says that they only visited him because they thought he would be a reason to make fun of him by making him feel bad. Later, Beth tries to fix the situation by telling him that he has had a great time by his side, and while the rest are asleep, they decide to talk a little more intimately. She convinces him to take off his sweater to air it out a bit, but by accident, they lose it on the way, and when they return for it, we see a wild raccoon appear and begin to chase them. The group runs to the car and ends up in the cabin that belongs to the parents of one of the girls. There they find decent clothes for our protagonist and then drink a lot of alcohol to toast to the best night of all. Beth invites Denis to watch the sunrise together, so they go to the pier where he starts talking about his brother who died years ago, while the other two girls decide to try to test if it's true that Rick likes boys. Back at the bureau, we see that the cute couple begins to feel more united. Denis finally reveals that he has always loved her and that his main motivation in high school was to become the speech he gave at graduation, thus achieving his first kiss with the love of his life. This morning, finally, Denis arrives at his house. His mother is happy to see him, but makes it clear that she doesn't approve of Beth as his girlfriend, while his father has a completely different attitude and tells Rick that maybe he should stay with them for a couple of days because his father is furious. Beth and Denis finally says goodbye as their college paths are separated. She kisses him tenderly and thanks him for loving her just the way she is. He replies that if in 2 years during the reunion of returnees they are both single, he will marry her, and Beth accepts, telling him that it is a promise. They all say goodbye, and the two best friends have a moment together again. There finally, Rick confesses to Denis that maybe he is not very heterosexual, and they enter the house while talking about the great adventure they have lived. This went to the Beth Cooper. Don't forget to like it, comment on what other movies you want to see on the channel, subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss the next